Hi, welcome to this introduction to the DynaVox Series 5 software. I'm going to be going through this webinar with you to talk to you a little bit about what the software is and how you can use it. My name is Charlene Cullen. I'm one of the speech pathologists with Spectronics, and we do a number of these webinar series, ones that you can access that are pre-recorded and also ones that we record live that you can sign up for. My contact details are on this page. If you do have any questions, you want to follow up and ask about something that you've seen or heard from this webinar, please feel free to do that. So in the webinar, we're going to be covering things like a hardware overview. So with the Series 5 software, you can actually access that software on the DynaVox V+, the DynaVox VMAX Plus, and also the Maestro. When we look at the hardware overview, we'll look at the V Plus and VMAX Plus. And then I'm going to look at some basic programming, so that'll apply to all of those devices that run the Series 5 software. And we'll look at just a few things like modifying a button, how to make a new page, and then how we would be able to link that new page to a button that's on a page. We'll look at a few basic button behaviours, and then also how you can actually import your own digital images. One of the most important things that is good for us to cover is how you can back up any of the changes that you've made. So we definitely want to make sure that you've got a copy of the things that you've modified in case anything goes wrong with the device or computer, and then you've got that backup that you can use. And then lastly, in addition to a few tips, we'll also have a look at ways that you can get further support if you're unsure about something. So just to start with, we're going to look at the hardware in general. The first thing that you will see when you look at one of the V series devices is that there are a number of ports and interfaces that it has. All of the devices, including the Maestro, come with a built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So that means that you can hook up to the internet and also use Bluetooth devices such as a speaker or a mobile device. The other thing that they have is the ability to plug in an external microphone. That's if you wanted to do any specific good quality recordings, but the built-in internal microphone that is on the device is also very good as well. The device also comes with an external speaker port. So the speakers that are inbuilt are very good speakers. They can produce very loud sound, but if you were to present to a large audience for a presentation or in a work meeting or to school children in an assembly, then you may want some extra amplification. So you can plug in external speakers for that purpose. The other thing that the V Plus and VMAX Plus come with are 4 USB ports, and that just means that you can plug in extra things like a USB keyboard or USB mouse, or if you're wanting to install some additional software, you could plug in a USB CD drive to access and install that software. The devices also come with 2 standard switch ports for individuals that may need an alternative access option to be able to access the device with a switch. And the devices also come with 2 infrared ports, which means that you can program the device to allow you to do environmental control. So to control things around the environment like turning on a DVD player or changing the channels on a TV. This is just a quick comparison that you can access from our Spectronics website. It just looks at the differences in weight and size, the screen display and the battery runtime between the VMAX Plus and the V Plus. You'll also find information on the Maestro on our website as well in terms of those features. So one of the big differences now with the newer VMAX Plus and V Plus is that there is a longer battery running time for individuals, which has been a big thing for people, as opposed to the 5 or 6 hours previously. Now this is the front view of the device, so you can just see on the top there in the middle there's the power button, and then to the left of that power button there's a little indentation, and that's actually the inbuilt microphone, and underneath the power button you can see 4 lights, 2 to the left and 2 to the right. The first 2 are just indicators of the device being turned on, so the power light, and also there's a light for the charger, so when it's plugged in you can actually see the light come on and know that it's charging. There's 2 little lights to the right of that power button. One of those is for the hard drive. What you'll see is that will just flicker on and off as the device is doing some working and thinking. And then to the right of that is a light sensor. So you can go into the controls of the device, and if you want to adjust the screen display brightness, you can ask it to sense the light around it, the ambient light, and adjust the screen brightness accordingly. So it'll do that automatically if you do change that in the settings. The side view, you can see some of the ports that we were talking about earlier. So firstly the speaker port, and next to that is the microphone port. To the right of that are the 4 USB ports, and then again to the right of that are your switch jacks. And the one we haven't mentioned is the last one, which is the one that you plug into for charging the device, which is very important. We've got the speaker view, which just shows the top part of the device where the speaker holes are. You also have fans within the device that cool the device down, and just at the base of the speaker holes you can see a large plastic area, which is the infrared port on that side. There's also one underneath, and that infrared port, as I mentioned earlier, is for allowing you to program the device with anything that runs with infrared remote. So often DVDs and CD players and TVs can be programmed, and the device can learn the controls so that you can control your environment with a different access option. This is the rear view of the device. So at the top there's a little plastic area which is the other infrared port. There's also some attachments there for the stand that you can see, the 2 black attachments, and then a white raised part which is for a mounting plate if you were to put the device onto a wheelchair. And then you can see 2 screws which screw in the battery compartment. So that's how you would access the battery compartment to take that out. And then the big black sticker is important to know about as well, because there's a serial number there written. You can see it starts with V, and there's a little barcode above it, and that serial number is specific to the device. So sometimes when you may need that device to be repaired, you might be asked about that serial number. Now we're going to talk a bit about the Series 5 software itself, just so you can navigate your way around and know how to use it. So that's the software that comes with the device and allows you, or there's a great number of options for you to choose from in terms of communication pages. The page sets on within the software are called Interact, and there are thousands of them based on age groups and also communication level. So the first thing that we would do when we go into the software, if it's come to you and you've just taken out of the box, is that you would be asked to enter some information in the startup user, where you create a name for the individual who will be using the device and also add in some specific information to that individual. And through a series of questions that you are prompted with, the software will then select for you the most appropriate page set. So it may select for you a teen user if you enter the age that's more around a teenage group, and if you said that the individual was more starting out with their communication, then it might have less number of buttons on the screen. But then again, if you selected more of an adult age and someone who's using language very well, it may select more than 60 buttons on the page and also give you access to keyboards and things for the person to type messages. So there's lots of different options and features. There's also a number of other users that are a little bit more specific to different disability groups. So there's one for people who have aphasia or traumatic brain injury. There's one for individuals who might be using the eye gaze option. There's an attachment for the VMAX, and that's called the Navigator page set. So any number of options to choose from. Let's now go into the software and I'll show you what I mean by that. So at the moment, you'll see on the screen a child page set, and this one has just 12 buttons, but I can actually go into my menu button at the top, and we'll talk about those in a moment, into the setup menu and choose Page Navigator, and here on the left-hand viewport, where I'm waving my mouse, for that child user, I could actually go in and choose 6 buttons and just have less options on the page. So if we choose that and go to page, now we have 6 buttons available. We could also go into the Page Navigator for someone who's using language a little bit more and combining words. We might choose the context-dependent section for this user, and then we've got 20 buttons or 40 buttons we could choose from. So I'll just show you quickly what that looks like. And there you can see as an individual increases in their with the vocabulary that they have and the way that they're putting words together, you actually have more buttons available to you. Your other option, of course, is to actually individualize it and create your own page sets, so you can do that also, and we'll cover that in a moment. Now, we're going to do a little bit of programming, so I'm going to go back to the 12-button page set in Page Navigator, and in that page set, so just go to Page. I just want to make that look a little bit simpler on the screen so it's easy to follow. What we're going to do first is actually look at modifying a button that's on the page. So when I say button, I'm just referring to that single cell that has a label and a picture on it. So that's a button that you would touch on the screen, or you might select with a switch on the device, or with a joystick. And so there's a number of ways that you might actually access that depending on your abilities. Now we can modify those, make them a little bit more individualized. So if I was to go into My Words down the bottom there and select drinks, we might want to add tea to our list. So I'm going to do that by clicking on the top row here. We've got the title bar, and this button at the top that has the little green squares on it is our modify button. I'll come back to the title bar in a moment and explain some of those other icons, but we'll look at modifying and adding the word tea to a button. So I'll click on modify, And then I'll give it a bit of a prompt which says pick an object to modify. So I can go down and click on the space, a clear button. And as soon as I do that, I have the modify button pop-up which comes up. And I can work through from the top of the screen to the top of the pop-up to the bottom with adding in information. So the first thing is button type, and there's already a flat button type. I will keep that as it is because I want to keep with what all the other buttons are looking like. So I can add my label, and I'm going to add in the word T just by typing into that search box, text box. Then I can click on symbol, and down in the bottom left hand corner we'll see that it says search, and the words T are there. So if I'm happy, I can just search for that. It's good. Or if I thought there might be other words that would help me search for some symbols, I could also type that into that search area. But there's a great symbol there. I'm going to click on it to select it, and then I can go in and choose behaviours. And there are hundreds and hundreds of behaviours to select from. There's a little drop-down box here called Favourites, and if I click on that little blue arrow, it'll show me all the categories for different behaviours that a button can actually perform. Now we'll just stick with the Favourites, and we won't go too complex with what's available, but there are many. And what we will want that button to do is speak what's on the label. So we'll choose Speak Label, and we will choose Add, which is down the bottom. And now we can see that that's written on the right hand side under Steps. So that particular button is going to speak the label. I'm happy with that, so I'll click on OK. And I'm pretty happy with what I've changed there to modify the button. I don't want to clear it because that will change and clear everything on the button. And I also don't want to change anything on the right hand side. That's just related to the button's appearance, which we want to keep the same as the other buttons. So now I can click on OK, and you'll see that my button has changed. I've got the label T and the picture, and I also just want to check that behaviour is working. So if I click on T, I will hear the synthesized voice speak the word T, and that was Karen's voice. T. Okay, so we've added that button. Now I'll just quickly close those pop-ups and go back to our main screen, and let's just talk quickly about what we've got at the top of our screen in the software. These little icons are in what's called the title bar. There's a few navigation ones just to the left-hand side. You've got forward and backward arrows to navigate through pages. You've also got a home button, which can be set up so that you can click on that at any time, and it will always take you back to your home screen, which is handy if you get a little bit lost. You've also got an undo button, which is more relevant to when you're doing some actual page editing, and a phrase button. Some people may use this, probably more literate users who are able to read phrases that they've entered in, but this can be quite a quick way of being able to speak to individuals, and you can program categories of phrases. So you might have things for going to the doctor or going out to restaurants, and so those concepts or categories are on the left hand side, and then on the right hand side are the phrases that you've entered for that particular concept or category. So if I click on those,
Don't look at me,
it'll speak that phrase. So that's the phrase button. The two main ones that you would probably use the most are this blue menu button and the modify button. And then in the top right hand corner you've got pretty much the little buttons that relate to the same as you would if you were using a Windows computer, the cross to close down the software, and then the maximize and minimize buttons. And then this little question mark is just one that you can click on if you're unsure of what other buttons are. So sometimes I find that handy in page editing, where there's a few more icons that I'm not familiar with. And what I can do is click on the question mark and then click on a button that I'm not sure of. So let's choose the menu button. And it'll just label it for us or give us a description. So it's the description button. Okay, so that's the title bar. We've had a quick look at how you can modify a button. Now we're going to actually look at making a page. So for this example, I'm going to go into the folder called Playing. And I've got a blank button here where I think I might want to have some vocabulary around computer games, not just traditional board games, which is just above it. And I don't yet have a page of those, so I'm going to create the page first and then show you how we can link this button to that new page. So let's go in and create the page. I can do that with my menu button. So I'm clicking on the menu button at the top. I'll then choose page editing. And I'm going to choose quick page. Now, in quick page I see a bunch of templates that I can access. There's a 6-button pop-up. As I click on those, it gives you a little thumbnail view. What I do want to use is the 12-button pop-up, the little close button. If there's not a template there that I want, I can actually go into add a template, which is an option just underneath there, and then look through all of the templates and choose the one that is most appropriate. But I am happy with the 12-button pop-up. So I'm going to choose select, select that, and so it's asking me now for a name. So let's call it computer games. Click on OK, and it's creating that page now, and it's asking me if I want to fill those buttons using a search or by typing in text, but I'm going to choose don't fill because I just want to do that at my own leisure. So now I've got my new page, and just a quick tip, if you want to check what your page is called, you can click on the modify button. And you'll actually see on the left-hand corner a little label. So I can check now, and that's actually my page that I just created called Computer Games. So click on the Modify button again. So now I've got my Computer Games page. I might want to add a few computer games on there, so I'll just hit Modify, hit a blank button, and let's call it Frogger. We'll choose symbol. I want to choose a frog symbol, and it's speaking the label, so that's one of our games. I'll modify another button and call it Dragon Slayer game. It's automatically chosen a symbol, and I'm happy with that. So I've got a few games there. I'll click close. Now we actually need to link this blank button, which we will also modify a little, to link to that new page, because currently if we click on it, it doesn't do anything. So I'll click on modify, click on my blank button, and now I need to give it a name, computer games. I need to choose a symbol. Just choose a computer. And now the important thing is the behavior. Previously we were using the speak label behavior. This time we want to use the go to page behavior. So there's a few different behaviors you'll use a lot. It's likely to be go to page, and speak label is another common one. So we'll choose go to page, and then we need to add it. And as soon as we click add, it'll then take us to our pages, and we need to find the page that we want to link to. So let's scroll down I know I called it computer games, so I need to go past B, down to C, O, and there's our computer games page. We can just click on that and see the thumbnail just to check that we've got it right. And I'm going to click on OK. So now I'm ready. In the steps it says go to page, computer games, and I'll click on OK. And we're ready to check that that works. So we've created our new page, we've linked it from this new button called computer games, and now if I click on it, it takes us to our new page. So there you go. Fantastic. I'll close out of there. The last thing I'm going to show you is just how you can drag and drop images or import new photos. So you may use the symbols that come with the software, or you may also want to add your own photos. So to show you that, you can do that onto any button, but we're going to look in the My Photos folder. And I'm going to just click on Photo 4 folder, and we're going to drag and drop a couple of photos onto these blank buttons on the left-hand side here. Easiest way to do that in your software, you may need to plug in a mouse if you're doing it on the device, is just to minimize your software, or not minimize, but just hit the maximize button so that it goes smaller on the screen so that you can see your other things on the desktop. And we want our pictures folder, so I've already opened that up. So all you need to do is just make sure that you can see both the DynaVox software and your pictures folder from your computer. And that doesn't matter if you've got pictures on a USB stick, you can make sure that that's visible. And then all you need to do is just drag, so click on the icon, the symbol that you want, and drag it across to the button you want to drop it onto, and that's when you let go of your mouse button. It'll say, do you want to set the button's label? And I'll say yes. The reason that I do that is if I set that label as what it was called, koala, what happens now is when I go into my symbols, I can search for koala and that photo will actually be in there as something I can access for other buttons, which is great. So it's good to label your images beforehand. Not have those funny names that are often assigned when you import them from the camera. We'll just do that once more. So I'll click on my Photos folder. I click on the one picture that I want, hold down my left mouse button, click and drag over to the button I want to drop it onto, let go of my mouse button, and I'm happy with that button label, yes, and there's my picture. So yeah, importing pictures can be as easy as doing that drag and drop. Yeah, great. Okay, so I'll just close that picture software down, and now we're going to have a little look at some interface features, things that you can change within the software that just allow a little bit easier use. We can access that menu through our menu button, so I'll click on that, and if I go into Setup and my Setup menu, this pop-up that you see is probably one that you will access a bit just to change things around for the individual. So one of the things you might do is change the selection method. At the top here there's a drop down, and an individual might access it by touching the screen. They might use scanning with a switch, they might use a joystick, they might use a head mouse or an eye gaze option. So there's a number of selection methods and you can adjust the settings for those. The other thing that a lot of people ask me about is whether you can the access to the title bar where the modify button is, so that individuals don't keep changing and getting into the setup menu and changing things as well. You can restrict access, and if we select interface features, we can actually go into the title bar tab across the top, and here's where we can change a few things to make it a little bit harder for people who like to explore. So there's an option for enabling a password. If we click to check that box, we're then asked to enter that password. So I can enter a password. It's really important to make sure that key users, family members or school staff know what that password is. And then once you've entered that, every time an individual tries to touch something on the title bar, like the modify button or the menu button, ask for that password. So it does that. Individuals who like to explore can be restricted in that sense. The other thing you might want to do is maybe not have the password thing happening, but you might want to just remove the modify button. So you can do that by clicking on this checkbox to not show the modify button, and that means that it just won't show up in the title bar. So I'll click on OK, and now you can see the modify button has been removed. So you would then need to go back into interface features through your setup menu and the title bar tab to get that back again if you want to make any changes. The other thing I mentioned earlier was just choosing a home page. So here interface features as well. That's a handy thing for navigation. Okay, so we'll click on OK to go out of there. The thing I want to talk about now is the importance of backing up. So this is something you need to remember to do. There might be different ways that you remind yourself, but the two things that I do say to people is if you are backing up, when you would do that is every time you make major changes, and also in addition to that at a regular interval. So you might make sure that you back up the user weekly. Maybe you might do that monthly, but I'd suggest it's at a regular point, and make sure you discuss that between individuals as to who's doing that. But that just means that if you do it at a regular interval, you capture all the little changes that mum might have made, or a spouse or someone at the school. If they've made changes and they didn't really think about it, backing up at the time, all those little changes are captured if you do those regular backups. So the thing is, when you do back up, and we'll show you how to do that shortly, is you'll usually back it up onto a USB thumb drive, and it's important to take that file that's on that USB stick and perhaps store it in a folder on your computer as well. So make a copy or drag it across in your Explorer on your computer, but don't just keep it on that USB stick, because it's really easy to lose the USB stick, and it's also easy to or for a USB stick to become corrupt. So you almost need to back up your backup just to make sure that you've got one. And I've come across many a user who's called and said, we've got a problem with the device, but we didn't do a backup. And yeah, it's pretty devastating when you've done lots of changes. So to do a backup, let's go back into the software. And what we're going to do is choose the setup menu, the menu button, choose setup and setup menu, and then we need to go into user manager. And there's a big blue button in the middle top row that says backup selected user. So we can choose that. If we've got photos in there we want to back up, we'd say yes. If we've got emails that the person's been using, we would say yes. In this case I'll say no. And the next thing it's going to ask me is, where do you want to back that up to? Now currently it's just, if I give it a name and save it from here, it's actually just going to back that up to the computer, and that's not what I want. I actually want to back it up to my USB stick so that I can take it away and have an off-site or away from the device backup. So I need to actually click on Show All Directories, make sure that's checked, and then find my USB stick. And that's going to be my G drive in this case, but you might need to just check through and click on the different options just to see where your USB thumb drive is. Once you've found that, you can then enter the name of the backup. So I'm going to call it by the name of the individual, Joe Blogs, and I'm also going to date it. That's quite important. So it gives you a sense of what the backup is. When you look at the file name, you'll know who it's for, and also when the last backup was, and you can compare the dates if you've got a few different files. So we'll put the 12th of 12/11 and click on OK. And so that may take a little bit of time depending on how many pages you're backing up, how many modifications you've done. So you'll see that hourglass come up as it's doing the backups, and then once that's gone, you might get a quick message that says backup was completed successfully. So once you've done your backup, one of the ways that you can check that that's actually worked is to go into your Explorer on your computer, and we'll just tab to find that. And what you'll see is if you go and look at your USB stick, is there should be something listed with the name and the date that you've just saved it with. So we can see Joe Blogs 12/12/11.user there. So that's a good way just to check that it's worked. And then you've got your backup. And as I said earlier, make sure that you do take that and pop it onto your computer somewhere and make a copy so that it's not just on your USB stick. Now, we're going to go back into the PowerPoint, and there's a few other things I wanted to be able to cover. The supports that are available to you when you're using the device or the computer software. There's a number of ways that you can find things out if you need to ask a question or to remember how to do a backup or how to modify. So the first things I'll show you is back in the software itself. There are a number of supports built in. If we go into our menu at the top and choose Help, there's the Help topics that you can go into. There are some tutorials, some actual video tutorials that you can watch on different things that you can do. There's also a how-to, and that just means you can type in questions like backup and it'll come up with step-by-step instructions. So I'll just show you how that looks. We go into how-to, and if I type search for backup and click search, how do I back up my user information? And then you can see underneath it comes up with a whole big step-by-step on how you can do that. So that's the help. I'll also just show you quickly under help the tutorials. So here you can see the getting started option. It talks to you about the title bar, and you can watch a quick video on that. Any of the things that we've just covered are probably there around creating a page and also modifying a button. So that's useful to know that that's actually on a device with the Series 5 software. The other option that you have is remote access tech support, so through the internet from the DynaVox website, or also by phoning us at Spectronics. We have a tech support team that you can talk to, and there's a 1-800 number you can access from our website that allows you a free call for that. The other thing that's really handy, and I use this a lot, is a website. The DynaVox website has the knowledge base, and that's based on answers that they've generated from questions that people have asked them. So if we go across the top into the Support tab, I can then choose the device that I'm having, that I have a question about. So I'll click on V+. And here you'll see just underneath it says search the knowledge base. So I can enter a keyword. So I'll type backup and click on search. And then it will say, come up with a whole range of options. So how do I back up a selected user? Sounds most like what I want to know, so I'll click on that. And here I have the steps that I've just gone through with you as an answer. So that knowledge base is really handy to access. If you can't get a hold of someone, you can't remember, the knowledge base is often a good way to get that support. The other thing that you have access to is web-based training. So you're watching a webinar at the moment that we've pre-recorded. DynaVox have also pre-recorded a number of webinars. So if you go into their training tab, and you'll see the online training, they've got some scheduled ones and they've also got some recorded options. These are the recorded ones. What we might do is just click on show all trainings and check the ones that are about the Series 5 software. And you can see there's a number that you can watch there. What is Series 5? Cameras and photo albums on the Maestro. Welcome to V and VMAX devices, and so on. So there's a number there that you can watch. All you need to do to watch those is to log in with a username and a password that you set up for the DynaVox website, and it's free. And then also you can look at our own website where we have under supports and services, we have online training. And as I mentioned earlier, there's some specific trainings that you can sign up for, and also you can ask us about any trainings that you might not see there, or any pre-recorded sessions that you might want to access. So last of all, if we go on to the next slide, this is the website address for DynaVox website at www.dynavoxtech.com, and you just need to select the area that you live in, so Australia or New Zealand or other, and you can access the information that I was just showing you. And then there's our own website, www.spectronicsinOz.com, where you can access information and also the training classes. You can also find us and access information or reach us through Facebook, Twitter, and our email updates on the blog. And if you do want to learn any more information about DynaVox or anything else, then there's our emailed update service that you can sign up for. We also have a blog where we write a number of different just different information that we write up about usually every few days, so that's useful to sign up for and see what we write out about. And then we've talked about our online training services. So I want to thank you